Welcome to the Touch MBA Admissions Podcast. Do you need help figuring out which schools to apply to or how to get into the world's top MBA programs? Hey, you're not alone. Join thousands of others on this podcast and on our site, touchmba.com, as they seek the admissions edge. And now, here's your host, Darren Joe.
Hey, welcome to the Touch MBA podcast. This podcast is for you, MBA applicant, you who are trying to navigate the complex ocean of MBA programs out there and trying to figure out which one fits you best and how to get in. This week, I spoke with Orla Nugent, who is the MBA Programs Director at the UCD Smurfit Graduate Business School, about their full-time MBA program, which is based in Dublin, Ireland. I think this program is a really interesting gem in terms of value. The tuition's only €29,500, and they're really generous with scholarships. It's an 11-month program as well, so you're looking at potentially really high ROI with this program. I learned a lot, and I'm sure you will too, about the business environment in Ireland. For example, did you know that 9 of the top 10 pharma companies, 11 of the top 13 global medical companies, and 9 of the top 10 tech companies all have offices in Ireland? I didn't know that. So a lot of students, after they graduate from the program, are moving into consulting, tech, and pharma. It's a small program, about 40 students in each cohort, and they really focus on giving their participants one-to-one attention from faculty and their career services team. So I hope you enjoy this episode. If you need help figuring out which programs best fit you and your career goals, go head over to touchmba.com and tell us about yourself. We'd be happy to give you some free school selection advice as well as a profile assessment. That's what we specialize in, helping you find the best program for you that will be a great investment for you. We also have an admissions course as well. It's an online course that you can take. In this course, I cover basically the 80-20 of what you need to know to get in. So everything from school selection to your positioning, to your essays, to your CV, to your recommendations, to your interview. It's all in the course, and we have a really helpful forum there where we all help each other with our application and admissions questions. So you can check that out at touchmba.com/course, and let's get straight to the episode. It's my pleasure to have the next business school and guest on the show. In fact, it will be our first MBA program from Ireland. So I'm really excited to learn about this school. And Orla Nugent is the MBA Program Director at the University College Dublin Michael Smurfit Graduate Business School. And Orla has been with Smurfit since 2007. So she's really seen the program through for the past couple years. And before Orla joined Smurfit, she's worked for some big companies like PwC, Hewlett-Packard, IBM, Bank of Ireland. And she just has a really interesting background. She's been an entrepreneur. She's an executive business coach, and she serves on a number of boards. So I think she'll have a really great perspective to share with you about MBAs and Ireland and careers there as well. So I just like to thank you, Orla, for joining the Touch MBA podcast.
No problem. Thank you, Darren. Looking forward to our conversation.
Fantastic. So, Orla, my first question that I like to ask is simply, what makes the Smurfit MBA unique from the other top-ranked business schools in Europe and the world?
The way I would describe what makes the Smurfit MBA or the UCD Smurfit MBA unique is it's really the overall package and the experience that the student is going to have, okay? There's a number of reasons behind this. The first thing I'd say is the location. Dublin is a vibrant, leading European city, and we're located more or less in the heart of Dublin City. Our program is approximately 11 months long, so it's intensive, it's short, and it's English language, and our class size is small in comparison to other leading MBA programs. Our class size is typically in a 40 mark. There's a 2-to-1 ratio of academics to students. So we get to know our students and participants really, really well. And that allows us match their needs as we go through the program to make sure we help them achieve their goals. And then when you're here, I believe it's truly transformational because we focus on all elements. I call it IQ, EQ, and RQ. So IQ is the curriculum. It's the curriculum to help you understand business and make good decisions. The EQ is looking at you personally, looking at self-awareness, looking at how you impact and influence others, and how you manage yourself in terms of times of crisis and challenge. And then the RQ is our dedicated career service. So this is giving people lifelong career skills. So we believe when you go on the program, it's transformational, and then we want to give you the skills to equip you to sustain your career post-program. We would have a strong performance in terms of career outcomes, and that again is another measure of, I suppose, one of the differentiators and one of the reasons why you should come to Smurfit.
What do you mean by that in terms of strong performance of career outcomes?
Within 3 months after graduation, 93% of our graduates are in employment. And the fact that our class size is small in comparison to other schools, that means we have an awful lot of one-to-one touch points with the students. So students have one-to-one sessions with me as the director of the program. We have 4 sessions with an executive coach. They have a number of mentoring sessions with our alumni, and they have one-to-one sessions with career advisors, as well as a team coach, because if you can't work with other people and through teams, then you're not going to survive when you go into industry. So you can see there already there's an awful lot of one-to-one interaction with the students as they move through the program, which means we get to know people very well. And it also means there's nowhere to hide as well.
Where are most of your graduates working? Where do they end up working after graduating?
The main industries that people are moving into from the UCD Smurfit program are consulting, tech, and pharmaceutical med devices. And life sciences is another area that people are moving into. There are some finance, but it would be more finance within companies as opposed to financial businesses.
Yeah, and I can't wait to talk more about that later in the careers part of the podcast. But I'd like to go back to the first thing you mentioned, which is the location, which is really what makes this program unique. Why should an MBA candidate get their MBA in Dublin and Ireland?
Before I answer that question, just a couple of pointers about UCD, because we are unique in Dublin, because we're one of less than 50 schools in the world to be consistently ranked over the last 15 years in the top 100 rankings. We are the only Irish school and one of less than 60 worldwide who possess all 3 accreditations, that's AACSB, EQUIS and AMBA. And we're one of the first schools in Europe to establish an MBA. Our MBA was established in 1964, so we're celebrating 50 years this year. So we have a long history of an experience of delivering MBA programs. And we're also very internationally focused. We are members of Yale's Global Network for Advanced Management. We're members of the SEMS International Alliance for Business Schools. We have a suite of MBA exchange schools worldwide, and we deliver, as I said to you earlier, graduate management education programs to over 4,000 students in Southeast Asia. So we're very active internationally. They're probably the main reasons or the main differentiators from a UCD Smurfit point of view within the Irish market. Ireland is seen as a worldwide leader in a number of industries, okay? And Dublin is our capital. And Dublin is a very diverse business hub. It's very vibrant, it's very active, but it's also small and accessible. And that's really important, particularly when you're studying here, because then you have great access to multinational companies and decision makers within those companies. But to come back to Dublin, I'm not sure if you know this, but apart from our own indigenous firms, so I'm sure people have heard of Ryanair, CRH, Aer Lingus, Kerry, Glanbia, Paddy Power, the betting company, and Dennis O'Brien with his Digicel. We also have a large representation of international companies based in Dublin. We have 5,300 ICT companies in Ireland. We have 9 of the top 10 pharma companies are based here. 11 of the top 13 global medical technology companies have significant manufacturing and or R&D facilities in Ireland. We have 9 out of the 10 major tech companies here in Ireland. So we've got Google and Facebook, Twitter, eBay. So you can just imagine how exciting it is to be living in Dublin right now. If you're a student here in Dublin, and we were ranked by QS in the top 20, I think we were 15th place. So it's a very, very exciting place to be right now, and there's a lot going on, both in terms of multinationals, in terms of indigenous business, and in terms of entrepreneurship. US financial magazine Forbes named us the best country in the world for business, and also the World Bank said Ireland is one of the top 10 places in the world to do business. So as our Taoiseach, who's the Premier of the country, his message is, Ireland is open for business. It really, really is. There's a huge amount of activity going on here.
Wow, that's really amazing. The 9 of the top 10 big tech names, for example, and the 5,000 ICT companies and so forth. It's really amazing. in terms of the school, are there any exciting new developments with the program that our listeners should know about?
Well, we have a new president, Professor Andrew Deeks, who was appointed in January 2014. He came from Durham, and he's actually an Australian by birth. His vision is around internationalisation, and that mirrors quite well with our vision in the UCD Smurfit School. In terms of the programme, we are continuously looking at our programme. Every year we evaluate what we do, and we learn from what we've done, and we improve on it. And right now we're actually going through a complete review of the programme. We do this every couple of years, kind of a root and branch review of the programme and our delivery. And as I mentioned earlier, you can hear that there's a lot of activity going on in Dublin and in Ireland. We're looking to the future and saying, well, where do we focus on? Tech, telecoms, digital, consulting, life sciences, aviation is quite a valuable business in Ireland at the moment. So there's a lot of exciting opportunities there, and we're looking at that in terms of the programme and how we deliver it. And also we're focusing on internationalisation. I mean, 50% of our students in the school are international, representing about 60 countries, and up to 40% of the academics that teach on the MBA programme are international. They represent about 15 countries. So the school's focus is international. We see ourselves as an Irish business school, a business school that's its centre is located in Ireland, but we have an international reach. Certainly that's our focus for the future, and that's very exciting for us because the opportunities are abundant. There's two other interesting things actually that are going on in school right now. We have a major capital investment project. So we are building new state-of-the-art classrooms and breakout areas for our students. We also established an academic writing centre, and that's really, really useful for our international students because it's a great place for people to go, particularly if English isn't your first language, to actually work through the challenges you're facing as you come up to speed in terms of working through English. So it's a very exciting time to be here at UCD Smurfit.
And would you describe the Smurfit MBA program as a general management MBA?
We're general management right now, and we're saying, well, where do we want to go to? We allow our students specialise towards the end of the program. So the areas we're looking at, as I said before, tech, telecoms and digital, entrepreneurship and innovation, and general management. And leadership sits at the heart of all of that, but certainly the general management piece then would equip people to go and work within other industries.
And how would you describe the culture at Smurfit to someone who may not have the chance to visit campus or Ireland?
Well, as I said before, it's very international. It's very diverse, both in terms of culture and industry. It's very collaborative, okay? As I said, our class sizes are small, so it's very inclusive, and a lot of the work is done through group and teamwork. That means that we create a collaborative environment through which people learn, because the whole idea is that people can learn as much from each other as they can from the academics and the theory and the practical experience they get from industry. And also we're very innovative. We're always looking at new ways of doing things because we have access to such a wide network of industry senior decision makers and they come through the school doors. We make sure that we put them in front of our MBA students so that people learn from their experience as much as they're learning from a classroom.
It's amazing that the MBA program has been around for 50 years. Congratulations on that, by the way.
Thank you.
What are Smurfit faculty best known for? Finance or marketing?
I would say that marketing and the whole digital marketing, strategy, entrepreneurship, they're the key strengths.
Yeah, and I noticed that a good percentage of your graduates, I think it was in the class of 2012, went into entrepreneurship. What is that like in Ireland? What is that scene like?
That's a hugely vibrant scene here in Ireland, and there's quite a lot of funding available. And what's kind of interesting is we just had a talk recently from Claire Lee. She's the MD of Silicon Valley Bank, and she spoke to our entrepreneurship club. The key challenge that they've identified in Silicon Valley is access to talent. They're saying that there's plenty of access to funds. Now, obviously, we're at the other end of the wave, so access to funds is increasing. There's a lot of government initiatives to support people when they want to set up their business. We have a healthy VC community here in Dublin. We have a number of centres that have been set up. There's one here in Nova UCD. We have Guinness Enterprise Centre, Digital Hub. Our students actually get involved in the running of those centres as well as being entrepreneurs in those centres. So it's a very, very tight network, and certainly every year when we kick off the programme, our Entrepreneurship and Innovation Club has become very popular. And it's a great opportunity for the students coming on the program to link in with people who've come through the program, who've set up their own businesses and scaled them up, and also people who provide support within each of those hubs.
I'm getting a sense that with all these major tech firms in Ireland and, as you mentioned, the large number of ICT companies, that's such a big part of the economy. For international students, is it difficult for them to stay in Ireland after they graduate?
No, because I suppose there's two reasons. One is in terms of visas, students can stay on longer after the program if they are looking for work. I think in other countries you might need to go home once your studies are over, but in Ireland you don't. You can apply for an extension and can stay for up to a year. What I say to everybody actually is once you start an MBA program, you're also starting to look for a job. Day one, you look for both, right? And that's really one of the key points on our MBA program is we kick off with our academic curriculum, our leadership development program, and career starts from day one. And the idea behind that is by the time you get to the second half of the program, you should be out there networking and making your contacts. Everybody has an equal opportunity of getting a job here in Ireland or even in the UK. We've had some of our students go and work in the UK, but it's all about the individual and it's all about making sure you give that equal focus.
In terms of fit qualities you're looking for, I think you dropped some hints there in your last answer, but are there any other qualities that you're looking for that our listeners should know about?
We're looking for people who are curious, who have an open mindset, who don't take things at face value, who'll question, who'll debate, who seek to understand the underlying reason for something being as it is, and if they don't agree with it and can think of it doing a better way, then having the ability to develop their thought process and possibly a new way of thinking or a new idea. That they're very hungry to learn, because I really think you need to be motivated to do an MBA, particularly if you're going to do one over 11 months or 12 months, because it's so intensive. You really need that motivation to keep you going when you're tired and when all the demands are there and it's difficult for you to meet them. We always say we're looking for that X factor. So it's somebody who will stand out, who wants to make a difference and is eager to learn.
I'm writing all those things down right now.
Okay.
But I noticed that on average, your students tend to be relatively older or at least have more work experience than other programs. So I wanted to ask you about that because I think your average was about 8 years.
We're actually looking at bringing that average down. So to look at younger students. We don't necessarily exclude younger students. It's just by virtue, I think, of people who are attracted to our program tend to be that little bit older. Our average age this year is about 31, and the average work experience is about 6 to 7 years. The minimum requirement is 3 years, and the minimum GMAT is 550. So we do look for people with minimum 3 years work experience, and we stick to that because that is important in terms of the classroom dynamic, and what somebody is going to add to that discussion is key.
Would you have any tips for those younger applicants who might be, interested in Smurfit but say, okay, I have 3 years of work experience. How can I show that I can contribute in the class and outside the class?
I always say to people, okay, I want to know what you've achieved in the time that you've been working. I want you to show me that you have delivered, that you have failed, and that you've learned from that. Okay, I don't want people to show me that they failed, but I want to know that people understand that they can learn from failure as much as success, and that if stuff hasn't worked out for them, it doesn't mean that they should think, oh, well, I'm not going to be considered. People learn so much more from when it doesn't go right than when it does. We want people who have experience, who have achieved, or at least tried to achieve, okay? And really what I'm interested in is, what will others learn from you? If I'm sitting in the class and I'm looking at you, Darren, I'm thinking, okay, he's my classmate, so what am I going to learn from Darren? And what can I impart to Darren so that we both benefit from each other?
I think it's great that you look for candidates who can really learn from their failures and can show evidence of that, because I think sometimes MBA applicants feel like they have to be perfect to get into these schools. We're all going to mess up. It's that ability to learn from those missteps and move on.
Exactly. I also think by bringing that through, you can learn so much on the MBA program because you'll have time to reflect. You'll reflect on your career to date and what you believe your aspirations are through different lenses when you sit in an MBA class. The lens of the academic curriculum, the lens of your leadership development program, and your classmates, because they will have completely different viewpoints to you. So it's a fantastic time to take stock.
It sounds like your program, you guys place a really heavy emphasis on EQ and RQ, which you mentioned earlier. But it is an 11-month program, and it is intense, and students should be looking for jobs from day one. How clear do applicants' career goals have to be when they apply to Smurfit?
I think we all think we know what we don't want to do. We're not quite sure what we want to do. That's the crux of it, really. Some people are very clear and very focused where they want to go to next, but the majority of people aren't. So the way our program is structured, we have one day a week that's completely dedicated to our leadership development program and our careers. We have one day a week dedicated to that. That's why we can say you get that checkpoint every week to sit back and to help you develop your thinking. And we have a number of workshops to help you clarify your thought and kind of work your way through that fog, so that by the time semester one is complete, you really should have a better view and more clarity about where you want to go to next. So I wouldn't worry if you don't know exactly where you want to go to, because that's perfectly normal.
Could you walk us through the life of an application in your office?
We have an online application system, and there's a number of elements to that application. You need 2 references, your GMAT, and there are 4 essays, and we look for your curriculum vitae as well. The 4 essays, think about those essays. Those essays are there not just to tick a box. They're there to ask you some insightful questions to get you thinking about what is the MBA going to give and deliver for you. And the references are there. We like you to speak to 2 referees, and we want you to talk to people who know you and who challenge you, and also who you respect, because that's part of your own kind of 360 effectively before you even come near the program, to say, this is why I want to do it, and defend your position. And we do call references as well, so we will check up with the guys, particularly after the interview. And then obviously the GMAT test, it's very important to give yourself time to prep for that. So once we've got a complete application, our MBA admissions manager reviews that application. Once it's met the requirements for admission to the program, it then goes forward to an MBA admissions committee. And that admissions committee is made up of the careers manager, myself, the head of admissions, and the MBA admissions manager. So the 4 of us meet and we discuss all the applications, and a decision then is made to put forward those eligible applications for interview. Interview then is carried out by alumni and ourselves, okay? So a lot of people find it valuable to be interviewed by our alumni, actually, because they can get a really good insider view of the program. Once the interview is complete, the same committee come back together and review the output of the interviews. So in terms of timelines, from the minute you submit to the minute you will get a response, it's about 3 weeks. And then you get called for interview once you're eligible and we have all your documentation. And then it's probably about a week or 2 once the interview is complete that you'll get a response. So it's a pretty quick turnaround.
That's extremely quick. And you have rolling admissions, right?
We have rolling admissions, yeah. So while we have rolling admissions, we do encourage people to apply early. I mean, our scholarships are at the start of the year, particularly for the full-time MBA. We encourage people to apply early because our overall, I suppose, remit is to make sure that we get the balance in the class right. So we want to balance experience, diversity, all of those elements to make sure that we're going to have a really, really good classroom and learning experience. Places do become more limited over the course of the application cycle, and that can, result in chances of being offered a place reducing. So that's why we encourage people to apply early.
And when you say early, how early is that? You're running from October to June, right?
Yes.
So December, January?
I would say in the new year, so January, February. A closing date for most of our scholarships is mid-March. So I would say the first quarter of the new year would be key.
Do you have any last tips on what applicants can do to improve their chances?
I always say take time to write the short essay questions and keep them short.
So stick by the word limits.
Stick by the word limit, yeah, because one of the challenges for people is to actually stick by a word limit. And you're going to learn that when you come on an MBA program, because you'll be penalised if you go over the word limit. So we read every single essay and we just want you to get to the nub of the issue. So that's why we have the word count in there. And we really want to hear from you. What do you want? What would you like to achieve? And then that helps us assess whether or not we're the right fit for you. At the end of the day, the conversation is about fit. Fit for purpose and fit between ourselves and the candidate and the programme and the school. Give yourself time to prepare for your GMAT. The GMAT is not the be-all and end-all of everything, but it is an important factor in the admissions process. So just give yourself enough time to prepare for it, and don't underestimate the simple things like time management or sitting in a new test centre. Simple things can put people off. So just be cognizant of that. And I suppose I also mentioned about the references. I mean, this is a big investment, not just financially, but also in your time. So we would recommend that you choose references wisely, that there's somebody that you will listen to and that will have your best interests at heart and you can have a good discussion with. So that when you fill in that form, you're comfortable and they're comfortable that they're making the best representation for you and that you are assured that you're along the right path.
And you prefer those recommendations to come from direct supervisors?
Yes, they don't have to, but sometimes we do ask for them to come in separately. But, if referees are happy to share them with the candidate, then that's fine. But we will check references. So don't make it a box-ticking exercise would be my key piece of advice.
Right, exactly. And in terms of the interviews you conduct, could you explain the typical interview? Is it about 45 minutes, and what sort of things do you cover?
You're right in the timing. It is about 45 minutes. What we want to get to know is we want to understand your background. So you'll have all of this information in essays and in your CV and in your references. And now we want to hear it in your own words. So it's your opportunity to tell us about yourself, some interesting facts about your experience to date. And we're also interested in getting to know you as a person. So a lot of people have done some really interesting stuff outside of the corporate world. So we really want to know that about you because all of that adds to the classroom experience. You've got to be ready for strong questioning, robust questioning about your motivations and about your expectations. Because as I said, it's all about fit and fit for purpose. And in some cases, we will get students to undergo a very short case study. And again, this is to help us assess, the person's ability to read through data, pick out the key points, and present an answer. We're not going to be worried if it's not the right answer, but it's more that you have the ability to do that in a very short space of time, okay, because that will be one of the demands on the MBA program. And obviously they're the skills that you're going to hone when you do an MBA.
And the alumni that are conducting the interviews, they'll have the entire application as well.
Exactly, yes. So effectively, they will be the same. Our interviews are carried out here on campus. And then for international applicants, we'll do Skype interviews. And if we're in country or when we're in country, we'll arrange interviews to suit with that timing.
Just kind of on a side note is, how does your office view the IR portion of the GMAT? Because I'm imagining that you're trying to assess some of those skills during the interview with the case study. Is that important for you guys?
Yeah, it's becoming more important. So over the last couple of years, we've been, I suppose, getting our heads around that as well. So it's certainly something that we will look at and take into consideration. And as part of our own quality improvement process, we're looking at how we can incorporate that more into our admissions process. But it's certainly another indicator for us. And depending on that score, we might channel our questions down a particular route.
If we can now talk about financing and scholarships. I know you guys have a lot of scholarships. Can you let us know what percentage of your class gets them and what your average scholarship amounts are?
So approximately 60% of the students receive scholarships. About 27% or so are fully funded. Just over 30% will be partially funded. And then the average amount is about €20,000.
Wow, that's really fantastic opportunity. So I should probably clarify that your tuition is 29,500 euros, right?
It is, yeah.
So that's very generous scholarship awards from Smurfit. So take note, those of you that are listening.
Exactly,
Just
yeah.
highlight that. That's really amazing. So, of course, my next question then is, how can people improve their chances of winning those?
As I said earlier, our scholarships for the full-time MBA run in Q1 of the year. So if you look at the website, you'll see the dates, the closing dates for the scholarships. Apply early. It just improves your chances. It means we can get to talk to you earlier, and we're not at a rush at the end when potentially candidates are trying to meet that final deadline. Have a strong GMAT. Our average GMAT for scholarship winners is plus 650. Give yourself the time to study and get the best GMAT you possibly can. It doesn't all hinge on academics, etc., but we were looking for all-rounders. We're looking for somebody that we believe will contribute to the program and to society and the corporation or the company that they're going to work in afterwards. So we really are looking for good candidates that demonstrate an all-round ability, and we want them to be ambassadors for UCD, for MBA, and for themselves.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the best way to show that is to show how you have made an impact where you are right now. Or are there other ways to show that?
We're interested in the whole person. So we'll have people that will have, they're mountaineers and they'll have raised money for charity, or they're sports people, or they're heads of division, or, lots of different types of people come on the program. And we're looking for people who are driven, who want to achieve, and who have actually gone out there and tried something and learned from that. So absolutely, you can show it through your work, you can show it through your own interests outside of your work. So that's why I'm saying we're looking for an all-rounder.
In terms of careers, I'm sure a lot of people have heard about the Irish financial crisis and, high unemployment rates, and that's kind of a downer for someone who's thinking of going to business school in that country. So I was wondering if you could kind of shed some light on how that situation has changed or evolved, and if that has affected, it sounds like it hasn't if 93% of your graduates are getting jobs, but how that has affected your placements and career prospects.
Our stats in terms of our placements over the last number of years have been very strong, so up in the 90% percentile, I should say. That's something that we focus very heavily on. So we don't place people, in terms of our career service, but we actively work with people throughout the life of the program, in terms of the careers advisors, in terms of their CV, in terms of the network that they can link in with. So we had 93% employed at 3 months after graduation last year, and our aim is to keep that in the mid-90s over the coming years. So we're actually developing our career service. So we have just separated out careers. It used to be part of our programs. So now we have a head of careers, we have an MSc division, we have an MBA division, and we also work with exec development, which would be our executive education arm of the school. We also, as a leading business school in Ireland, have very, very strong network to industry. 50 years of an MBA, 3,500 alumni. We've 75,000 business alumni worldwide and 35 chapters. So our career service works very closely with our alumni in terms of establishing links and maintaining those links for the purposes of assisting our graduates in their employment search. The other two interesting things I think that could be useful for people to know, 3 years after graduation of our full-time and we have an executive part-time MBA, graduates have on average enjoyed salary increases of 63% and 53% respectively. And we also find through the program that our executive part-time MBA, 65% of them are either promoted or changed jobs. So in terms of the full-time MBA, they can also leverage our executive MBA students. And as you can see, they're very active in terms of their career progression from the minute they come on the program. So hence, we have 1 day dedicated a week to the pursuit of that.
Where are most of your graduates, by where I mean geographically? Do most of them for the full-time program end up staying in Ireland or going to London or elsewhere in Europe?
It actually depends, to be honest, on the years. When you talked about the crisis there a couple of moments ago, the majority of the class would be working or would have gone to work internationally. probably a couple of years ago. Now what we're seeing is the majority of the class is staying in Ireland and in Europe because there's a lot more opportunity here now. The other point that I suppose that I'd like to make is in terms of employers. Employers want to work with our graduates. So certain leading employers, we're their first port of call when they're going to recruitment. So we make sure we develop those networks and ensure that our graduates are fit for purpose in terms of being employable. And as a result, we have employers coming to us and saying, we know, your graduates are coming out now, so we're interested in talking to them.
Yeah, and as an executive coach, what do you tell your students? Like the program just started. What advice are you giving them in terms of what they need to really be aware of to land their target jobs, aside from starting early, of course?
What we say to people is you really need to have honed down maybe 2 or 3 areas that you'd like to investigate. So the beginning part of our conversation, especially for people who don't know where they want to go to, is to try and decide, well, what are your values? So very important that we can try and align the values with the company and the sort of job you want to do. And then where do you want to work? So geographically, where is it that you'd like to be? And then we kind of match those two through conversation. And also, what is your expertise? Because a lot of this is about transitioning. And some people have made the jump immediately. Other people, maybe it takes 2 steps to make that jump. So we look on that and we look at transferable skills. So that is kind of, I suppose, the fact-finding piece of the initial stages of the career development. And then what we do is we say, okay, you're now challenged to network. So we also bring people through a networking program. And we open our little black book and we say, okay, you want to find out about X, Y, and Z. You need to know what it's like to work there from the ground up. So we make sure that people talk to individuals working in those sectors or industries at the right level, because you don't want to go in at the decision maker level because you're on a fact-finding mission at this point in time. And then when you have that done, then you can start saying, okay, now I know where I want to go, I know what I want to do, and I know the kind of the sort of intelligent questions to ask so that I can help a decision maker realize that I'm the right person for them. I'm going to fit their bill. So there's a number of steps along the way, and that's what our careers advisors will work with the students on. The mentors will work with the students in terms of a day in the life of. If somebody wants to work in finance, we'll make sure we link them in with somebody who's working in the finance sector. If you want to work in construction or consulting or ICT or food or energy, again, our alumni are from all of these different sectors. And that's where the mentors come in. So they come in with the practical information. And then the exec coach helps the full-time students, I suppose, deal with maybe some of the softer issues, maybe confidence, some challenges, maybe the stuff that they, through their previous working environment, that they'd like to work through. So the exec coach will then help them hone those messages as well.
And I'm guessing that your largest base of alumni is in Ireland. And where are, a lot of your other alumni?
We actually have 2 boards in the Smurfit School. We have the UCD Smurfit School. We have a North American board and an Irish board. So the US would have a large number of our alumni, and obviously with the North American board, we have fantastic connections in North America. And actually Asia, I said to you already, we have like 4,000 students in Asia. So we have quite a large alumni network in Asia as well. And that just goes back to our ethos of we're an international business school that's based in Ireland.
What is the best way for our listeners to reach out to your students to get a first-hand account?
We have a very simple email, mba@ucd.ie. And so if anybody's interested in finding out more about the program or talking to alumni or even our students who are currently on the program, please email mba@ucd.ie and we'd be more than happy to link you in with the relevant alumni or alumnus or a student. We have to mind our alumni network, so we don't open our alumni network out to everybody. We make sure that we make those introductions and connections.
And can applicants submit their CVs to your office to get an initial indicator of fit, or?
Yeah, actually, a few people would do that. Again, the email address is mba@ucd.ie, and our MBA admissions manager will review CVs and have an initial conversation with people. And if somebody wants to speak to me, then they can request that, and I'd be more than happy to do so.
Okay, fantastic. And is there anything else about the Smurfit MBA that when you're traveling all around the world, your team's traveling all around the world, that you just wish more candidates knew about?
I'm not sure if candidates know about this, but We have won the NBA Rugby World Cup, I think 10 times out of the last 12 years.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, last year now we came second. So our class this year are actively putting together our NBA Rugby Club, and we have a ladies team and a men's team, and we're going to go back out to the States and try and reclaim our title. But I suppose that just adds to the club side of things. The program is not all about academic learning. We have huge links with industry. There's about one project that's 300 hours of practical project time within industry. It's peppered right throughout the program. But also, you're going to make lifelong friends when you come on the MBA, and particularly in the UCD Smurfit MBA, it's such a small class. So we really encourage the social club, the sports club. We encourage people to get involved in the various initiatives so that they can use those to demonstrate leadership, to try new things, and to make new friends.
What is the campus like, actually, at UCD? Can students stay on campus?
So our campus is in Blackrock. I think it's about 8 miles from the city centre. It's coastal, so we're just about a 10-minute walk from the sea. But it's in a suburb of Dublin, so there's buses and trains that you'll be in the centre of the city in like 15 minutes. And our main campus, so the University College Dublin campus, is in Stillorgan, which is about 3 kilometres away from us here, closer to the city. So we are a dedicated postgraduate business campus. And we have accommodation on campus. It's beautiful, actually, because it used to be a convent. So the buildings are beautiful. They're very old red brick buildings, and obviously modern living accommodation. On our main campus, we have a state-of-the-art sports centre. There's lots of rugby pitches, hockey pitches. We have a huge sports centre on our UCD campus, and the two campuses are very close. But here, it's a very peaceful, green campus, and a very nice place to work and to come and study.
I think that's a great place to end our conversation. Orla, thank you so much for your time and for joining the show.
Not at all. My pleasure. And I hope I have answered all the queries. And if anyone has any questions, say, mba@ucd.ie.
That's mba@ucd.ie. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Touch MBA podcast. Don't be shy. We have a mailing list. Go to touchmba.com and get yourself signed up. And we'll keep you posted with the best tips and insider interviews on how to get into your number one school. You can also find us on Twitter and Facebook at Touch MBA. See you soon.